There's a ton of videos on the internet that say that you should never practice singing in the car. And the reality is they're right, kind of, sort of, it's complicated. When I was in college, I didn't actually really go to the practice rooms very often. And part of that was because back in the day, we used to have to sign up on a sheet of paper that didn't even really guarantee that you could have your practice slot. And our practice rooms were like rehabbed nursing homes, and that even had the little call button that you could press in the bathroom. Rehab nursing homes that had a mattress, black mattress, eggshell foam on the walls, which is what they called soundproofing. It wasn't uncommon for me to go in there to practice one of my classical pieces and be sharing a wall with a trumpet player who was practicing their scales and their pieces as well. And so there was no way for me to have any isolation from any other instruments. Because of that, I didn't go to the practice rooms, probably rarely ever. And so what I would do is that I would do two things. The first thing that I would do is that I would just practice what I could practice outside of the practice room. What was that? Well, that's breathing. Right? I could practice my breathing walking anywhere, because unless I'm running, if I'm walking in a very comfortable pace, then I can breathe deep. I can work on rib cage expansion, 360 kind of a breathing. And the other thing is that I could practice memorization and sing these pieces under my breath in a very comfortable way. And so then I began to quickly realize that I don't necessarily need to be in a designated space in order to have effective practice. Now, fast forward to today. I live in Nashville, Tennessee, and like many people here who are musicians, you have roommates. And after the pandemic, they both work from home. And I also work from home a lot of the time when I'm not teaching at the school. Because I have roommates, I can't just be in my room vocalizing during the day. There is a time in the afternoon when they're both gone, but it's, even though they're super kind and they wouldn't necessarily have a problem initially if I just started wailing in my room, they have meetings, they have Zoom calls just like everyone else. And so what I ended up finding, especially when I'm in a studio, is that I find myself vocalizing and practicing in the car a lot. It's my own portable practice room. And there's a few positives that come with that and a few negatives. And first off, I would say that if you're not really an advanced singer, you are comfortable with your technique and you're comfortable with what you're singing, then you probably shouldn't do this. You probably should try to find a space where you can sing without any interruptions. But if you are an intermediate to advanced singer, then these three benefits could be for you. And number one is that you're by yourself. You're in isolation. You have a space where you can practice. Number two, it's time flexibility. And also you can practice in short spurts. So oftentimes we would think it more beneficial to practice for an hour straight, but I was told in college that Pavarotti would say, I don't know what the truth behind this quote is, if it was Pavarotti or someone else, but I was told that it's better to practice 10-minute increments throughout the day rather than practicing for an extended period of time. So you can practice in short spurts, especially because many of us, if you still have a commute somewhere, if you have to go somewhere, for me to go to a studio, then you can do that, and it's very beneficial. And lastly, singing is extremely mental, and oftentimes we are afraid of letting go because of what other people might think, right? So if we're in a practice room and you're practicing and your voice breaks, the trumpet player, if he clams up, it's funny, but it was his poor technique, poor embouchure, the fingering wasn't quite correct, but it was an external instrument. It's way more embarrassing psychologically when it's your own instrument that you feel betrays you. And it's very difficult when practicing around other people. So practicing in an enclosed space like a car removes that mental barrier, because you give yourself permission to sound awful. And when you give yourself permission to sound awful, oftentimes that mental that mental wall goes away, and you might be able to find some breakthrough. Now, we're going to come right back, but first I'm going to go get some coffee, which is fine for my voice and it's fine for your voice too. it doesn't dehydrate you nearly as much as your voice teacher has made you think. And the Vanderbilt Voice Clinic actually has the data to back it up, but that's going to be in a different video. So let's go get coffee and come right back. Coffee break is done. Thankful for my videographer behind the camera, my lovely fiance. Get a shout out, dear. I love you. Anyway, back to practicing in the car. So you get isolation, which is great. You get personal space. You get rid of that mental barrier of embarrassment and the psychology of being afraid to just sound really, really bad, right? So here are some of the negatives of it. You are in an enclosed space, and oftentimes we blast our music really, really loud, so we tend to oversing. That is the number one net negative thing, oversinging. That's why most people tell you not to practice singing in a car. It's because you're going to end up screaming. Secondly, we tend to blare music too loud, which could be bad for our ears. And also, I always tell this to my students, whenever you are playing music really, really loudly, you're always going to sound exactly like the artist that you're performing with. So if I'm singing along to Bruno Mars, then I'm always going to sound like Bruno Mars. But if you end up playing the music and you're singing really, really loudly and then you turn it off, boom, you may end up sounding like Idina Menzel on New Year's Eve singing Let It Go. So, thirdly, which is one that really bothers me the most, is that you can't maintain proper singing form, right? So you can sing sitting down, you can do it comfortably. You know, most of my students sit during their lessons. Yes, they can stand, but you know, you're unless you're hunched over and you're collapsing on your abdomen, then you can have decent, you know, to proper singing form while you're seated and maintain yourself relaxed. That doesn't really matter. If you're standing up and still tense, it's not gonna change. But the biggest thing is that when you're driving, some of the roads are just horrible. You know, over here in Nashville, especially near the downtown area, the roads are really, really bad. And so oftentimes I'll be practicing, let's just say that I'm practicing lip rolls or, you know, anything that requires any kind of finesse. Let's say that, you know, that I'm doing some messa di voce and I'm just doing like, it's really, really difficult for me to be able to do that and maintain precise chord closure when the road is going and it's shaking, because it makes you shake. And because it makes you shake, then it reduces the tension in your abdomen, it reduces the tension in the rest of your body, especially if there's any kind of a pothole in the road, and it really affects the way that you sing. And the thing that's really bad about that is that if you're getting used to singing in that kind of turbulence and you don't watch out for it, what could end up happening is that then that becomes a part of your form. So you end up tensing up in order to maintain an evenness in your voice, and you don't want to do that. So then you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, so how do I make those things positive? Number one, you need to be a critical listener of your voice. It's extremely important for you to be able to listen to your voice and understand what it sounds like, understand what your maximum rate of exertion can be while singing within a car. That might mean that you can't necessarily hear yourself, right? If you're wanting to have the track really, really loud, I don't recommend that. But if you are blaring it to have it be loud and you want to rock out and still have it be loud in the car, then you need to make sure that you are listening to your voice. Listen to what it sounds like. Listen to what it feels like. Don't ignore, right? Don't ignore your voice's check engine light in that regard. So watch out for those signs in your voice that dictate whether you're singing too loudly or whether you're getting tensed up. It's very, very important. Number two, get used to singing along to music when you're practicing at a lower volume, right? That's going to help so much, because then it's going to allow you to reduce that maximum rate of exertion in your voice and be able to get used to singing at a new level of evenness where you don't have to challenge your projection and perceived loudness alongside a speaker system that's designed to just be loud, and you can realize, oh, I am singing loudly and I am singing with correct technique, and I just can't necessarily compete with 117 decibels in a car, which you should never do that anyways. And then lastly, try to be mindful about form, right? As best as you can. If the road is shaky and you're running into potholes and all that stuff, try to be mindful. Try to watch out for your breathing. And if you can't do that, then any other place where you're walking, or let's just say that you're going to work or you're going to an event or anything, then you can practice your breathing. Even when you're not singing, you can practice singers breathing even when you're not singing. And guess what? You'll oxygenate your blood better. You'll breathe better, and you'll be implementing good habit that doesn't just have to do with singing. It's a good habit for life to breathe properly. Don't be afraid to sing in the car. It could actually prove to be something that's really helpful. I know that it's been for me. Just make sure that you follow a few of those tenets. Make sure that you don't sing too loud. Make sure that you don't tense up, and make sure that you listen to yourself, understand the sound of your voice. And this little space could become a little practicing haven for you, and you won't have to fight for a nursing home like I did. So anyway, thanks for watching this video. Make sure you follow me on social media to stay up to date with everything that I am doing. If you have any questions about anything that I said, please leave a comment down below. I always read them, and stay tuned for the next one. I'll see y'all later. Bye.